Now, moving on with today's show, one of the interesting recent technology releases is the update to Google's Chromecast device. And if you use the first iteration at all, then there are a few kind of key differences with this one, but it kind of got us thinking here at Labs just about the various different steaming devices. Well, streaming devices might be better ones to talk about at the moment.
One will do your Brussels sprouts and the other will do your TV, Jude.
I hope you've done your research on steaming devices.
Not quite. No, another few weeks yet.
Top 5 steaming devices. Yeah, so let's try that again. It got us thinking about various different streaming devices and how useful they are. And crucially as well, how accessible those different streaming devices are. So we have Daniel and JP with us this week to talk a little bit about the Chromecast, as well as 2 other devices, the Amazon Fire TV Stick and Apple TV as well. So first of all, maybe we could just come to Daniel. What are these devices for, essentially?
Well, the streaming devices, as you mentioned there, there's a few different manufacturers out there. The popular ones being the Amazon Fire Stick, Google Chromecast, and the Apple TV. They're probably the 3 guys that have the lion's share of the market. And they're an ideal fit, for your TV, and particularly if you don't have a smart TV. They effectively turn a TV into a smart TV. And basically they hook in to a small little device. They can be kind of in a stick format or a dongle format, and they just simply connect in onto a vacant HDMI port on the back of your TV, and you supply it in with a plug, just pretty much like a mobile phone charger, just to keep the power going to it, and that comes back from your electricity supply. So that's all you've kind of need, and obviously Wi-Fi then for internet connectivity. So that's what you need. And what you can do then with these devices is you can stream video content, play music, you can access YouTube, you can even do some of the live TV stuff on it. Your RTE player can be streamed, and they also work in conjunction. Let's say if you had a smartphone or a tablet as well. Now these are not essential for the operation of them. But you can, if you're sitting down on the couch and flicking through YouTube, or if something good comes on Facebook Live, maybe your favorite local band are playing live on Facebook these nights, and you can just hit the little cast button at the top of the video, and boom, it comes straight onto your TV. So it's very, very handy. They also can link in, be controlled from, remember we're speaking about our smart speakers, our Alexas and our Google Home Minis. Those guys, you can ask them to switch on the TV, put on YouTube and play a song, stuff like that. It's really very clever the way it works from that regard. And the new iteration of the Google Chromecast actually now comes with a remote control, has its own storage space. Now they advertise 8 gig, but you actually get about 4.4 gig to use. Yes. So you can store a couple of apps on there, and do certain things as well. I know with the Chromecast one, it integrates somewhat with the Google Duo app, and there's, I suppose, think of WhatsApp here, that you can do video calls and all that through it. So you can send up if you're on a video call, send a picture up onto the big screen TV. Really class.
Yeah. Interesting. We'll come back to that in just a minute, actually, to just the differences with the new Chromecast. Just if you're talking about one of these devices, basically, from what you're saying there, when you plug this into the back of your TV, you turn on your TV, you've got an interface there that you can connect with a lot of different apps all at once, but it will just work through your remote control then. Is that it?
With the new Google one, yes, but if you there's 4 generations, I suppose, to make this a little bit clearer. There's 4 generations of the Chromecast out there, and the 4th generation recently being launched, which came with a remote, whereas the other ones didn't. So I suppose with the generation 1 to 3, you'd need a smartphone ideally to to cast stuff through it. Now you could cast from the Google Chrome browser on your laptop. that would work. Yeah, but it would be best paired with another device, and the speaker can ask because they're all connected to one Wi-Fi system. So you could say to your speaker, "Hey, Google, turn on Netflix and put on the latest episode of whatever show you're watching," and it will do that.
Yeah. So this is really kind of integrating with the whole smart home idea that you've got.
Yeah,
kind of one central hub. Excellent.
Yeah, so I suppose it's like the Nest system where you say to it, "Hey, turn on the light in the living room."
Yeah. So it's kind of part of that whole setup, I suppose. If you have a smart TV already, is that is what we just mentioned there maybe the main advantage of having a Chromecast or any of these other devices, is that it connects up to the smart home, or is there any real difference between that if you've already got a smart TV?
You see, yes and no. The more modern smart TVs are, they're quite good and they're kept up to date, and even some of the smart TVs are coming with their native Android system. There's TVs out there that are called smart as well, but they're not. You're not your raw Android system.
Yes.
And even for most people now, like the likes of Netflix and all those will be done really well. But I think it's maybe where you get, you're looking for your RTE player or your TG4 player or something to work. It doesn't come across as well on some smart TVs. I would prefer the Chromecast system, to be quite honest. But look, there's people out there with a smart TV and they just hit, there's even a button on the TV remote for Netflix and in the air, and that's fantastic and that works. But it's down to manufacturer of the smart TV, how good they have, how smart with their smart TV, if that makes any sense.
So how long roughly have these devices been around, like in general, this kind of iteration of technology?
I think these have been around for a good number of years, Jude, and I'm looking at the three devices that we have today. Daniel mentioned there a moment ago the Chromecast, Fire Stick, Apple TV set-top box. So we can go back to 2013. Actually, the first generation Chromecast was released. As Daniel mentioned, they were up on our fourth generation with the Chromecast with Google TV, which I know we're going to be talking about a little bit more later. The Fire Stick then came out a year later. So the Amazon Fire Stick was released 2014, and we've seen 4 versions of this released since it came out. And the latest version is the Fire Stick 4K, which, as the name implies, will support 4K streaming. Then actually we have to go back much further than that. 2007 was the release of the first the Apple TV set-top box. We've seen 5 versions of this, with the latest version being released in 2017. So definitely, I think one thing that's really apparent is that these devices have become much more popular in recent years, and they're transforming kind of an old TV into a smart TV effectively, provided it has a HDMI port. I think this is particularly so over the last number of months in light of COVID, and people are watching more Netflix and different streaming services. So we definitely noticed that.
Yeah, it's interesting when you mentioned just how long Apple TV has been around. That's kind of that caught me by surprise a little bit.
Yeah,
it didn't really kind of catch on immediately.
Yeah, I think the popularity of Google Chromecast and probably the Fire TV stick is probably greater even than the Apple TV set-top box. Having said that, there's still a lot of good accessibility features on the Apple TV.
Yeah,
I think the price point of the device is really, when Google and Amazon come along with their iterations of it, it really floored the market on price, because people looked at it and said, "Oh gosh, picking up something for 50-60 quid."
Yeah.
I think the old Apple stuff was 300 plus. Would it be right, Joe?
Yeah.
JB?
That's right. Yeah,
definitely. Really, like if someone coming in absolutely cutting the floor out of the market, and even as good a device, for the general run of things anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting. So let's just have a think about these different individual devices then. JP, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the Amazon Fire TV stick.
Sure, yeah. So the Fire TV stick, it's a very, very popular streaming device. Obviously, as you guess, it's made by Amazon, and let to stream movies and shows from streaming services like Amazon Prime, Netflix, and YouTube. And actually, it does also streams programs and films from Apple TV Plus. The device, like physically, it's shaped a bit like a big USB flash drive. It plugs directly into the TV's HDMI port, and it also comes with an Alexa voice remote, which you can use to control your TV stick, either using the buttons on the remote itself, or you can hold down the Alexa voice assistant button, which is at the very top of the remote control, and you can speak your command that way. It is like, yeah, I mean, I think the Alexa voice remote is probably one of the best features on the device.
Yeah,
and we could do things like I say, you can use direct play, where you can ask for a particular program to play, and if it's on multiple streaming channels, so if, for example, if there's one program on Amazon Prime and Netflix, it'll ask you which streaming service you want to stream from, which is quite good. As well as that, though, the Alexa remote can be used a bit like your Amazon Echo Dot or Echo. If you have a smart speaker, it can be used to do things like check the weather forecast or the time. So it has that kind of functionality there too. As you mentioned, there's been several versions of the Fire Stick TV stick that have been released since it came out. I think it was 6 years ago, 2014, and the latest version is the Fire TV Stick 4K, which supports the 4K streaming. Yeah. So
tell us something then. We'll come on to maybe just even ease of setup in a moment, but just first of all, in relation to accessibility features, how is the Amazon Fire TV Stick for accessibility?
It is very good. You know, I've chatted to several people who use this device as their primary kind of streaming media player, and I mean, let me just take a look at some of the accessibility features that come built into this device. So there's features for people who are blind or who have low vision. One that people could use is called Voice View. So this is a built-in screen reader on the Fire TV stick, and will literally speak out on-screen text as you navigate menus and settings. So yeah, that's actually worth pointing out that you can also use Voice View to set up your device too. So Amazon would consider this device to be accessible out of the box, so to speak. It can be switched on pressing two buttons on the remote control. I believe it's a back and menu buttons on the Fire TV remote at the same time for about 2 seconds, and Voice View will come on, and you can disable it that way too. Once you do it, you'll hear it being announced, Voice View ready. And actually, I think there's actually a video tutorial as well that you can do when you buy the device. So that's Voice View, which is the built-in screen reader. But for people who have low vision, there's a screen magnifier available on the TV stick, and you could use it to zoom in on the screen. And that can be turned on again by pressing a couple of buttons. It's the back, I think it's the back and fast forward buttons for 5 seconds. So you can zoom in on the screen. It will only work when you're navigating the menu or in your settings. It might not necessarily work for viewing video content. It wouldn't. My understanding is it's not compatible. Yeah. So there's Voice View for people who want a screen reader, and then there's a screen magnifier too for people who want to zoom in on sections of the screen. And then just going back to August this year, Amazon introduced a feature called Text Banner. This can be enabled in settings, and when it is enabled, it displays a rectangular box on the TV screen with the title of the currently focused item and then related text. So it's another useful feature for someone who has low vision and wants a bit of help navigating their screen. And you can also customize colors as well.
So that sounds very, very accessible. Let's just go over to the Chromecast then, and maybe we can ask Daniel. We've talked about some of the kind of differences with the new Chromecast, but how does the Chromecast stack up for accessibility?
I suppose with the first 3 generations of Chromecast, you know, you had nothing on the device itself, so it was the accessibility of another device that you're using to command the Chromecast to do something.
Yes.
So I suppose from that point of view, you know, if you're using a home mini speaker to command it to, you know, turn on YouTube and play a song, like that's voice dictation. So that's as good as you know. I suppose us Irish folks with our unique accents sometimes that go a little bit awry, but overall, you know, it does work that way. Now the new version that has come out with remote, now it's I haven't actually road tested this device myself, but I'm led to believe the talkback feature, which may be familiar to some of our listeners, that might have an Android phone or an Android tablet, that the talkback feature is built into the fourth generation Chromecast, but unfortunately there is no magnification on it to my knowledge. Now I do stand to be corrected on that if I'm wrong. But to my knowledge,
that's my understanding as well. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no magnification there, sadly. But I suppose with the remote, then you have the voice command feature on it. You have your Google Assistant button, so you have that directly from the remote now. I suppose that's a take on what JP was talking about with Amazon and their speak to Alexa, button that's on their remote too. So yeah, it's interesting.
And we were talking about some interesting possibilities with those kind of features earlier as well. Just the sort of things that maybe we haven't tested to make sure that they're fully working with this, but just even the idea of communications apps and things like that, like Google Duo. There's potential in there in the hardware, whether or not it's working at present. There's kind of potential for them to be used in that way as well, aren't they, as communications devices?
Yeah, I know the Google Duo app, you can shoot the incoming video section across to a big screen TV. That is doable. So that's something cool, and especially with COVID, and we mightn't get to see all our families this Christmas, and instead of looking at somebody on a smartphone screen that's 4 or 5 inch screen, you can just tap the cast button and boom, it's up on your 45 inch 50 inch TV on the wall, and you can get to see everyone. I think that's something sweet, and it's lovely to see that coming on. Just one more thing I want to mention about the new Chromecast as well. They have an optional extra plug. Okay, so you get your standard power supply with it, but you can buy an add-on one to replace the standard one, and it has a LAN port in it. Now, for somebody who might have they might have built their house and put in the cabling, network cabling, at the point where the TV is, where they want to Chromecast. You can now actually run that cable into the plug, and you're not relying then on Wi-Fi. You're bypassing the Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi is traditionally 20 to 25% slower than cable. So
interesting. Okay,
and that's a full reception, but you might be putting it in a room of the house where the reception from the Wi-Fi router is not fantastic. So you do have the facility to run a LAN cable straight to the plug,
very good,
which is a really good idea.
Actually, that kind of ties in with a subject we're going to be talking about in one of our upcoming live events: how to make the most out of our internet connection as well. So that's kind of a nice little tip with that as well.
Just minefield, that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll leave the full discussion for another day, I think. Just briefly before we finish up on this, just run out of time a little bit on this part, but just can we get a bit of an overview of how Apple TV is with these things? Because generally accessibility is one of Apple's big selling points, isn't it?
Yeah, they have the voiceover system that iPad and iPhone users will be familiar with already. To have that on their Apple TV platform or device, should I say, because they also do an Apple TV Plus, which is their own version of like Netflix or Amazon Prime. They have their own TV programming. So yeah, it's full voiceover is included on the Apple TV device. Works just like the voiceover on the phone. It's very, very slick. Very, it's what you come to expect of Apple, and I suppose that's why it does attract maybe a little bit more of a premium price, but you are getting that fluidness of voiceover included there on the TV. And I suppose then just to talk a little bit about the Apple TV Plus service, that gives you access to unique Apple content. They've produced a fierce lot of their own TV series, documentaries and films. I think it's €5 a month to subscribe. Now they're not awash with a huge amount of content, but they are slowly but surely building that up. And in addition, all of the programming on the Apple Plus TV service has audio description included.
Brilliant.
Which you might come across some programs on, like Netflix or Amazon Prime, which may not have which all the programs may not have audio description, but they do have that on the Apple TV Plus. So that is another kind of little feather in the Apple cap.
Yeah. And that's quite useful just to have the confidence of it sometimes, because even if it's happening on other devices, not knowing whether it's on a particular program in advance, not knowing that every program has it, is maybe a little bit of a drawback sometimes. It's nice to have that confidence. So just finally on this part, what would make someone go for maybe one device over another one? What would help somebody if they're trying to choose which device they go for here?
Good question. Familiarity of existing platforms. Now, most people have an Android phone, or they have an Apple phone, or they might even have Alexa in the house and mightn't have they mightn't be too bothered about what phone they're using. So I think it's familiarity of an existence, of the big three platforms, whichever you use. That will kind of nudge it in the direction of choosing on these devices. Price will come into it as well. As mentioned, Apple kind of a bit of a premium price, whereas Amazon and Google kind of go head to head on price. And I wouldn't worry about the content so much, because your Amazon Prime will work. Let's say you have an Amazon Prime, or a subscription that will work on the Google Chromecast, that will work on an Apple TV service. So you're not saying to yourself, oh well, I like this program and I know it's only on Amazon Prime. If I get a Google device, I'm not going to be able to watch it. No, that's not true. If you can bring your TV service with you across these devices. So that's and likewise, I think you can bring the Apple at least to Amazon, and I think to Google as well.
Very good.
Paying the €5 to Apple, you can bring that across.
That's useful to know. Yeah. Good.
I think JP, Google TV launching their own service too.
That's down the line, isn't it? Yeah. But I think you summed it up well there. I think kind of that for someone who is familiar with a particular platform, if someone is a voiceover user, perhaps they'll find the Apple TV box will work really well for them. They'll have the trackpad there, so they can use that to use voiceover. So I mean, that's something to consider. Obviously, it's a little bit more expensive, but if it works well, I mean, it's worth going for. Worth pointing out as well that the sometimes the Fire TV stick, actually only having a look at over the last few days, and the Google Chromecast with Google TV. It's interesting. The Fire TV stick Amazon will often sell it with one of their smart speakers, at a discounted price. So you get the two of them together. Interesting. I was actually on the Google website yesterday. I was looking at to buy the Chromecast with Google TV, and it was out of stock. Now, as of this morning, it's back in stock. So there's obviously high demand for that one.
Wow. Okay, so obviously availability will dictate a little bit what people can do as well. But that's really useful just to hear some of the comparisons of how the different devices work and how they get on with it, accessibility. That's very helpful. Thanks very much, JP and Daniel, for taking us through that information as well. And of course, if anybody has any questions, just get in touch with the Labs team as usual on labs@ncbi.ie as well. A reminder as well that our live events are posted to YouTube and to all the major podcast platforms as well. So if you want to listen back to that segment on streaming devices or to any of our other content that we've covered in our live events, that's where you can get those.